What are the dangers of traffic stops? Just the first things that come to mind.
Traffic stops for law enforcement are probably the most difficult thing for them to deal with because the unknown. As they approach your car, they have limited knowledge. At best, they know who owns the car. If they're lucky, they know who's driving the car. Limited knowledge, as they refer to them as routine traffic stops, which would be nothing's routine in law enforcement. So police typically approach a vehicle with a worst case scenarios in their brain. So they're thinking through what could happen, what couldn't happen, and react from the way the driver handles or interprets what the police are doing. So for them, it's the most dangerous part of the business where you're pulling up on something, not just the people in the car, but you have to keep in mind you have to be safe from traffic too. You want to protect yourself from vehicles that are traveling in the same direction that and give you some space to make sure you're protecting yourself. So it's a double-edged sword.
And what kind of training is in place to prepare officers for routine traffic stops?
It's interesting. So for training, there's through the academy and then in service training, but police officers stop hundreds and thousands of cars in the course of their career, and what they have to make sure they don't become numb to that. It becomes that's why people say routine. So there's really nothing routine about a car stop. They're all unique. Every police officer will tell you every car stop is different. People respond to you differently. So there's training for it. There's in-service training, how you approach vehicle. There's tactics that the police use. My guess is if the scenario that I'm hearing, the police officer, the tactics he used approaching the car, for his luck, it hit him in the hand and the bullet ricocheted and hit his vest. So how they approach the vehicle, make themselves less of a target, the way they talk to somebody where it's angles and things like that.
These days, there's heightened sensitivity between people and police, especially Black Americans and police. Is it a little different from when you were in active duty? Are you seeing similar trends? What is the comparison and contrast for you?
It's a good point. I think every police officer in America knows, the dialogue that's going on. Most people in society know the dialogue going on, so it's a heightened alert. It's just normal. It's not you have to something even train for. It's something they see on a daily basis. They have to be the best they can prepared to continue to stop vehicles. So the police, you stop vehicles really to change behavior. So if you're speeding, it's to stop you from killing yourself or maybe killing somebody else because we know speed kills. If it's a red light or whatever the motor vehicle violation that may be, it's to change behavior. But again, you have a COVID-19 crisis, you have an elevated society in general who are frustrated with the whole things going on in life. And you don't know at this point, nobody knows what the motive was for that person in that car.
After incidents happen where maybe officers are injured, what does that do to them afterwards?
It doesn't matter if it's a great point, Chelsea. If you're in Rhode Island or you're in California, when a policeman's shot, it makes its way through the grapevine pretty quickly, obviously through social media and media. And it again doesn't matter where it happened because it could be them. And that's how every police officer looks at it that, the grace of God, they stopped the vehicle, it didn't turn into something of substance that can impact their lives. So that's exactly what happens. The closer it is to home, I guess, when you think, the more it resonates. I mean, the Cape is 50 miles from here. It could be any police officer thinks that could be them on the motor vehicle stop, and that could be their day.
What is the investigation process like?
They'll piece together all the facts from the vehicle, whatever they have for witnesses, trying to find out who did it and apprehend that person. Because the theory is, if you were to shoot a police officer, you're a greater danger to the public. That you would have the wherewithal or the audacity to shoot at a law enforcement officer who represents, the safety of society. If that person's in danger, certainly. And I listened to a woman earlier opine. She said, "Geez, if a policeman is going to get shot, none of us is safe." So that is how the police think. And candidly, if the person is trying to get away for whatever reason, the police are going to do their best to apprehend that person as quickly as possible. One, to bring him to justice, but two, get him off the street so it doesn't hurt anybody else.
I mean, at this point, we know routine traffic stops are all unique, so they're not necessarily all the same. But what is some guidelines that people should abide by when
No, it's a great question. It's so what people should do when they stop by the police, put their hands on the dashboard or put their hands on the steering wheel. The policemen understand threats. Policemen can't get hurt without hands. Typically, hands are usually the vehicle that hurt them. I don't mean physically with their hands, but gun, knife, weapon. So you're telling the police that here is my hands. You're showing them. you're submissive, you ask them, they'll ask you, just cooperate with them and just and de-escalate anything that may escalate because trying to understand they're coming up to your vehicle having very limited knowledge again for that routine that we keep talking about car stop. Just answer their questions and it's the best route to take because I don't think a lot of people at times understand how the police officer is thinking when he or she approaches the vehicle.
Anything people should know with regard to police and traffic stops?
Well, just I think in the traffic stop, it's this um, when you get stopped, you might be having a bad day. We talked about it earlier. You might have had something go wrong in your life and you're agitated. Now you get the police stopping you. Police aren't thinking that. The police are thinking that something that you broke a motor vehicle law, or some of a citation. Typically, they're not stopping you for a crime. If they're stopping you for a crime and they know that, they're approaching the vehicle in a much different way than the typical what we call routine stops. So just be compliant, be polite, be submissive, put your hands up because you don't know what the policeman's thinking up coming to the car, especially they naturally going to have some fear. Fear is a really healthy thing for a police officer approaching your vehicle. So help de-escalate any situation you can and just be compliant.